Hi y'all, welcome to my shop. Today we're going to have a fun project. We're going to turn a very simple box, but I'm going to show you a little later in the video an unusual way to chuck this to finish off the top. Hi, I'm Mike Peace, and I'm here to share with you tips, tricks, and techniques to help you become a better wood turner. If that's something you're interested in, please click on the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. For this project today, I'm using a piece of walnut and a piece of dogwood. You can use whatever you have on hand, but it should be dry, and it should be contrasting wood. This walnut blank is about 2.5 inches square by about, looks like, 3¼ inches long, and for the top, the piece is 3 inches long and about 2 inches square. We're going to mark centers. Use my bird cage awl to kind of mark that on each side. We just kind of go by eye. It'll be round. It'll be close enough. While I'm doing this, I'll go ahead and mark centers on this one at the same time. Get that operation out of the way. The four-prong drive center that comes with this Powermatic is adequate, but to use it, you got to pound it in like this. And that takes an extra step. I prefer to use a step center like this one because it's just it's spring-loaded. You don't need to pound on it. I look at it, see, is one end better suited to be the chucking end, and yep, I think this is the end. So that's the part I put toward the tailstock because that's where I'm going to put the chuck tenon. We got tween centers. Let's turn it around. Keep in mind that walnut is a sensitizer, so you want to be careful about breathing the dust on it because it can cause you to be more sensitive to dust from other types of woods. We're going to get the speed up a little bit. All right, we're just going to turn it around. Okay. We're going to put a tenon on it. Appropriate to our chuck. And there we go. Let's see if it's just about round. Got a few flats. Let's get it a little flatter, a little rounder. Always check for flats and don't think, well, you'll catch it on the next operation because inevitably it'll show up on your project. So I've still got a couple of flats here. Alright, so now let's put it in a 4-jaw chuck. So we mounted our 4-jaw chuck using the tenon that we made, appropriate for a chuck. Dovetail if it's a dovetail chuck, but if it's a one-way or record power normal jaws, make a parallel tenon. Alright, so always bring up tailstock support. No need for this, but it'll reduce any likelihood of chatter. And in this case, this tool rest is a little bit big for box making, and I have a smaller one, so I'm going to switch. This makes it a little easier. Get in there close. I'm going to use this one for size approximation and kind of duplicate it, so I'm going to lay it here and mark that. And I'm going to make sure this is faced off before we go any further because that will affect possibly other dimensions. Make sure I got a clean cut all the way around, or it'll be chasing us on this project trying to sand a rough edge. That looks good. Okay. Next, we didn't really change the dimension significantly. For this box, there's an inflection point. That is when it changes directions. About I'd say 40% up from the top. Let's go ahead and mark that. because the appearance of this is important. Okay, let's look if that's about right. Actually, that's probably a little bit low. Let's bring it up just about 1/4 of an inch. Okay. And I want to do that before we start hollowing. Just get a rough idea on the outside. So I always like to put a part at the bottom, so sometimes it locks me in where I can change the shape, but it tends to cause me to keep an eye on the shape because it gives me something definite to look at. I'm going to use the spindle gouge, kind of just start that round over process a little bit. Continuous curve. Kind of look at the shape, compare it to this one. The box is a little different, but I want to start off with a plan. Okay, and then from this end we're going to come down. I'll take it down a little bit more later, but that gives me a rough idea of where we're going. Next, I'm going to drill a little starter hole, and I've got a little divot in there, looks like, left over from the awl. So I'm not going to bother to change that a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and take this live center off, so I don't get turn his elbow. Let's get that out of the way. So we're going to start off. I want to get a feel for how deep, so I've got this hand drill marked off with dimensions. I want to go all the way down to this notch right here. I'm going to slow the speed down just a little bit. Now we start the hollowing process. You know, beginner turners always think you want to use a Forstner bit to drill a hole, but frankly, then you got to deal with that little divot at the bottom. Cutting in grain can be a challenge, and it's just not that hard to learn how to do it what I consider the right way, and it's using a spindle gouge. You're just going to pivot. Now, you know from a bowl, on the inside of the bowl you go from the outside to the inside, but that's cross grain. This is in grain. In grain, you're going to cut from the inside to the outside. And just, you know, you start it low and then open it up a little closer to 9 o'clock and open it up if necessary. Get that cut. Just sweep it out. Now, I've got to leave room for this little ridge, so that's as far out on the end that I need to go. I just need to go deeper. Time to sharpen this tool. Hasn't been sharpened in a while. But I'm at the bottom. Okay. So at this point in time, I do a little more work with a spindle gouge, but then meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and switch to a scraper. All right, so I'm going to use a conventional scraper. I just put a fresh burr on it. I've raised the tool rest up just a little bit. The tailstock's getting in my way a little bit, so let me move the tailstock. Obviously the handle's got to be up a little higher than the cutting edge. You can cut on center. turn this little step. Got a nice, I've still got to reduce some of this, but I'm going to go ahead and put that step on it. So I'm going to use a box scraper for that. That is one that's got less than a 90-degree angle here, where I just bring this out, and this angle is going to be parallel with the lathe bed. And I'm going to come in and go down, oh, not far, 1/8 of an inch or so. That was exciting. Obviously I got a little bit of a catch here, and that just wedged it right out because I was getting a little aggressive, and actually I think what it was is I needed to put a fresh burr on here so it cut a little better. So let's put it back in and see if we can't recover from the damage. So let me go put a fresh burr on this. Okay, we can see where this was the major catch, and then looks like I might have started a catch here, and then when it went off the lathe, it might have bounced and damaged the rim. No problem. I've still got plenty of room at the bottom. All I got to do is move this down just a little bit further and clean that up. So let's do that with the box scraper. I think I took the burr off of this for some very hard wood I had. Very, very hard wood. You don't use a burr. And as a result, maybe I was pressing too hard. Damn. I think I'd never done this before. You know what happened? It hit the same area and grabbed it. So let's try something a little different. Not sure what. So let's think about this. I need to get that flat, and I think what I want to do is do just a little bit at a time and not get so much of that tool into it. Okay, my memory card was full and it quit recording, so let me tell you what I did to improve that. I used the beating and parting tool, and I used a CBN hone on one side to raise a burr on the other, and then flipped it over, and then gradually cleaned up that problem here and here. To finish cleaning up the inside, getting the walls a little thinner, I'm using this round-nosed hook scraper, and I've cleaned it up, and now it's ready to be sanded. Okay, I'm going to sand the inside with a sanding stick. I've got a little cotton and with some 120 folded over, and that's mostly clean the bottom. Just kind of work it around. It'll get rid of any bump at the very bottom. And then I can kind of come up the side a little bit and work it out. And then I'm going to come into the side very carefully. I'm going to touch that edge there, inside and outside edge, so I don't cut myself. And I sand through all the grits. I use some of my sanding abrasive paste, kind of like U-Butte Triple E, except homemade, and I do it inside and out, coat it with the lathe not running. I haven't found a finish that this causes a problem with, as long as you get it all off. Be careful with your fingers inside. You don't catch it on anything. And now I part the box off with a thin parting tool. Get it up around 1,000. Need to cut back. Alternate. Alright, now catch this. There we go. Now we need to do a jam chuck put this on there. This is not long enough, but I have another piece from previous projects, so let me go get it. So I got a scrap of from a spindle from a previous project from a spindle scrap box. It already had a tenon on it, easy to mount up for a jam chuck. Let's put a taper on it. See how close we get. Not there yet. That means I can bring the rest of it down to the taper. Now I bring a little bit of a bevel on it again. Bring it down to that taper again. Okay, now all I'm going to do is kind of clean up the bottom a little bit. I'll just take the slightest bit out. I could tape this up here, but good. Let's make sure we got a flat bottom. Almost. Still a little rough, so I'm going to clean that up with a negative rake scraper just to make sure I still got a bit of a burr here. Very lightly. Okay, I'll go ahead and sand that up. I'm going to use a knurling tool or Wagner tool, get the speed down to about 350. I'm going to come dead in on center so it won't just knock it loose. It's going right into the headstock. So I'm going to come off of maybe a 1/16 off center. I'm going to gauge on one side. Slowly bring it around until I gauge with the full face of the tool. Always have to frame our texturing. Speed up a little bit. Right there on the center. Right here on the outside. Maybe another bead. Bead, okay. Okay, I mounted the top blank of dogwood between centers. Get the speed up a little bit and I'll round it off. Alright, let's mount it in the chuck. This is going to be the top. We're gonna turn it this side out, and then I've got a way of chucking to finish the bottom. So I'm just gonna take this down the fastest way. It'd be with a spindle rough and gouge. Kind of make a cone. All right. Before I go too much further here, I'm going to get a rough idea of the size of the base. Calipers. 44.92. Let's just bump it up just a little bit bigger. And get a feel for what it is. Okay. Doesn't have to come down much. Use a spindle rough and gouge since it's handy. Take a peel and cut. It's probably pretty doggone close. Alright, so now let's start shaping the finial. And so the base is going to be right about here and here, and it'll come down from there, and there'll be a feature here. And all right, let's just make a symmetrical cove, if you will. Before it gets too thin out here, let's come down on the outside and okay, before I take it down any thinner, I'm going to cut off this at a 45 degrees, and I'll use a flush cut saw for that. I'll brace it with my fingers and see if the grain makes any difference which direction. I think it does. I think I'll cut it off that way. I could probably sand this off just as easily on a belt sander, but I like doing it this way. Okay. Okay, sanding will take care of that. Okay. Now, the feature I'm going to have at the bottom is going to be a ball. So let me take the base down a little bit with the beating and parting tool. Okay. All right, now I'm going to take the ball right there. All right, let's see if I can manage to turn a sphere here. Diameter about the same size and length. Part of its air. Yeah, I think that's improvement. That's the base of this with 320. The rest of it's going to be 500, I think. I think this will just about, maybe a little bit of a bulge there. A little scrape on it. And I'm going to finish this with some friction polish, which is shellac and alcohol with a touch of wax. Back, give myself a little space. See how well it fits. That's a nice fit. Okay. We're going to take us a thin wafer of end grain. In other words, we're going to cut off a square. Grain is running direction of the lathe. Soft wood such as poplar works great. That's what this is. We're going to mark center. You're going to cut a saw cut with your band saw almost halfway. Then we bring up the tailstock. I'm just bring it up against your chuck jaws like that. And we're going to round it off so it doesn't look so goofy, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So. Just take away the round square edges. Just ease it on down. We will reverse it. Tighten it up. And I'm not going to close this completely, I'm just going to snug it. Alright, now we've got to make our opening to put this in. So I'm looking for a spindle gouge, or we can use a scraper to open this up a little ways. I'm just going to come down, a little more than 1/16 of an inch. Just pretend like we're hollowing the box. A little bit too high. Just like we're hollowing a box. Now we start testing for the fit. And it's close but no cigar. And now we're going to size this with a box scraper or a spindle gouge and a box scraper. You want sharply defined walls, and you want a slight slope on here to match if you've got a slope on your lid, as in the case I do. And you're going to open up this hole. I forgot, before you start, you cut a slot here about halfway with your bandsaw. So you're going to poke this in, and then you're going to tighten it up. And what you've done is converted from having to be extremely accurate to like a 16th or a 64th of an inch with a jam chuck. With this, you only have to be accurate to about a 16th of an inch. And so then we reverse it, we clean up the bottom, and then I'm going to wind up texturing the bottom, or at least put a few little V grooves in it. Sand it up. Now we're going to use that texturing tool again. We're going to slow this down to about 350. And come right in on, just about on center. Anchor one side. Once it's going pretty good, you slowly press down. Take your time. Dogwood end grain is hard, and this is embossing it. And you slowly bring it around to the other edge. And there's our completed lid.